what a mess. Why, Sony? Why? So as I'm sure many of you are aware, Helldivers 2 is in the middle of a huge controversy surrounding their requirement to link your Steam account to a PlayStation Network account, which at first sounds innocent enough until you consider that this actually is going to block off a lot of people from being able to play this game. For those who didn't know, PlayStation Network is only available in 69 countries. Nice. And sure, you can pretend like you're from another country, whether by choosing a country that you don't live in when you're making your account or by using a VPN. But there is a risk of you getting banned for doing so. That would actually violate the terms of service for PlayStation Network, and Sony has the right to just ban your account, and that could happen if you decide to kind of partake in this circumvention method. You can already see examples of how this is affecting people. Here's a player from the Philippines who's a level 90 Helldiver who's being told that PlayStation Network is not available in the Philippines. So this individual will be blocked off from the game, will lose access to the game because of this new mandate and requirement. And then there's the fact that some PC players just don't want to make a PlayStation Network account because of security reasons, because of Sony's track record with data breaches, and that's a valid reason for why you may not want to give personal information to a platform. And so the end result is that Helldivers 2's Steam reviews have utterly and completely tanked. Look at the recent reviews right now. Overwhelmingly negative, just 16%, with over 230,000 recent reviews, and the overall review score right now is at a mixed with less than 50% from 510,000 reviews. Scrolling down, you can see that over the past few days, the situation has not gotten any better. If anything, it's gotten worse. So right here we have May 3rd, 2024, where we saw over almost 37,000 negative reviews. Then right here we have over 71,000 reviews the following day on May 4th. And then today, May 5th, it's even worse. We're looking at over almost 73,000 negative reviews, and the day isn't even over yet. Now, player numbers are still holding up. We're still seeing tons of players return to the game, which is why people are questioning whether Sony will care enough about this backlash or whether they'll just kind of weather this storm until people forget about this issue and then just enforce this mandate and not backtrack on it. And make no mistake, this was Sony's decision. It wasn't Arrowhead who decided to implement this mandate. And so right now, Arrowhead is scrambling, trying to contact Sony and PlayStation to try to get this sorted out. They're trying to get Sony to backtrack on this, or at the very least try to get them to address the fact that people who live outside the countries that PSN supports will essentially be screwed over, will essentially be blocked from the game. And yes, I know that this was a requirement that was in place since the game launched, but then they had to drop this requirement because of technical issues that they had during the game's launch. But then the game enjoyed months of not having this mandate, and people from all over the world purchasing this game, not knowing that this mandate would return and that, their access to the game would be denied. And this situation has only gotten worse. Sony has not been handling the aftermath of this situation particularly well. For example, something that people notice is that recently Sony changed their own words after the backlash, after people noticed that in the frequently asked questions section of PlayStation.com, it said, do I have to sign in to PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? The response they provided was that signing in to PSN is optional when playing a PlayStation game on PC. But looking at what it says now, it reads, some PlayStation games may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN. This change happened very recently. It just feels like they're reneging on their own word and sneakily trying to make it seem like this is how they've always operated when that was not the case. But perhaps the most egregious development is that Sony has decided to essentially double down on the fact that people are going to lose access to this game. It's like they have no empathy towards that. Instead of trying to find a solution, what they've decided to do recently is stop selling Helldivers 2 in non-PlayStation Network countries. And that's something you can see when you go to website SteamDB and scroll down through Helldivers 2's listing. You'll find the following change list where you can see a list of countries where purchase for this game is now restricted. And as you can see, it's a lot of countries that PlayStation Network does not support. After enjoying sales from these countries, now that they've made the stupid move of enforcing a mandate that blocks these countries, now they're saying, well, thank you for your patronage, get out. Like, it's kind of what it feels like. It feels so ungrateful to those outside of the PSN countries who have decided to play and support this game. It feels like they basically took advantage of people in these countries, and now that the mandate has kicked in, they're no longer of use, so they're just kind of being cast out. It feels incredibly scummy and just incredibly ungracious. Instead of backtracking on the thing that's making the game less accessible, they've decided to commit to making the game less accessible. People are already beginning to see the results of this. For example, if you go to Steam in the Philippines, the buy button for the game is no longer available, as has been pointed out by various users on social media. In Ukraine, this situation is particularly bad because, according to this Reddit user, Sony doesn't allow Ukraine players to register a PSN account without buying a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, basically locking them out of playing Helldivers 2 even if they are in a PSN available country. So for Ukrainian Helldivers 2 players who play the game on PC, they're forced to buy a PlayStation console to adhere to the mandate of linking a PlayStation Network account, because they need a PlayStation console to register a PlayStation Network account in the first place. That's really messed up. Just the sheer audacity for Sony to mislead people in these countries into believing that they're safe in buying this game and then pulling the rug from under them. It has certainly not gone unnoticed, and it has only made this whole debacle that much more well-known, and the optics surrounding Sony and the reception surrounding Helldivers 2 as of late that much worse. And it's got nothing to do with the quality of the game. People acknowledge and recognize that Helldivers 2 is an awesome game, which is all the more reason for why there's this much backlash, because people are saying everyone around the world should be able to play this game, and things were fine when this mandate wasn't in place. For them to add this mandate that makes the game less accessible, that screws certain people over months after launch, months after the game was enjoying a good life without this mandate, it just feels like the dumbest corporate move ever on the part of Sony. Now, developers behind the scenes are apparently doing the best they can to try to correspond with Sony and get this sorted out. Here's a community manager from Discord who said, "Internal discussions are ongoing about the mandatory linking change, and while I can't reveal details, the response from our dev teams has been pretty universally negative, and we're looking for better options." So the devs don't like the situation any more than the players do. And then here we have another update that reads, "If a better solution isn't provided for players who are in regions without PSN coverage, I'm assured that we won't be making the requirement mandatory for those players. We're not going to force people to either break Sony terms of service or not play the game." And then beyond that, this community manager confirms 100% that all this was Sony's doing, stating, quote, "That change, the Steam announcement, and the FAQ are all coming from Sony and not our team at Arrowhead." So yeah, do not direct your anger at Arrowhead and the developers. Their hands are tied. This is Sony higher-ups doing, and so continue to provide feedback, continue to provide criticism, continue to be vocal, and continue to make this a story, and maybe Sony will capitulate. There have been plenty of situations in the past where the community being vocal has led to positive change, so, don't let up on that front and hope that Sony listens to reason. Here's one more message from this community manager. "Players making their displeasure known through reviews, refunds, etc. gives us more pull in the discussions with Sony. This is essentially a low-key way to encourage people to continue dropping negative reviews, issuing refunds, so on and so forth." This is the community manager on behalf of Arrowhead letting the community know, hey, if you're vocal, that gives us more leeway to have more room for discussions, and it gives us more leverage to be able to essentially convince Sony to backtrack on this. So it's good to see that the developers are expressing that they're on the side of the community. And then this statement continues, "They don't read our Discord. It hurts to see the game's popularity suffer in ratings, but discussions are ongoing, and our team is on the side of the players in this fight. It's unrealistic to expect people to make PlayStation Network accounts in different regions to get past the account linking requirement. We're aware of that. Discussions are ongoing." So there's stuff happening behind the scenes, but what Sony's higher-ups' decisions will be, that remains to be seen. Corpos are not well known for listening to reason, so, this is a bit of a wild card situation as to how it'll play out. And yeah, people are taking notice of the fact that the community managers on behalf of Arrowhead are essentially encouraging people to refund and drop negative reviews, and stuff like this is going viral. Word is spreading. So yeah, this is a fire that Sony is dealing with now that they have to put out. Again, I say this to you, Sony, you have such a good thing going here. Is it really worth risking flushing it all down the toilet for something so stupid? For something as dumb as this mandate that, without it, the game would thrive anyway? Now, as far as refunds go, there are some reports that Steam is accepting refunds if you reason that Sony has essentially stripped the game away from my country because of this mandate, because of this PSN account requirement. So here's a player who played over 97 hours who managed to get a refund with that reasoning. So, if that's kind of the path you want to take, feel free to make that attempt if you are in countries that do not support PSN and that may potentially lose access to the game. I mean, hell, here we have somebody who played almost 226 hours of the game who also managed to get a refund. So this option might be available to you, though mileage may vary. We've also seen Arrowhead CEO and Helldivers 2 creative director take to Twitter to kind of keep people updated on this. And I feel bad for this guy because I don't think he wanted things to play out like this. And it wasn't his decision to mandate this PSN thing. And no doubt that if it was up to him entirely, he would have completely backpedaled on this. But alas, he has to deal with the situation where his game was just, thriving. And then corporate bullshit got in the way, and now he has to deal with this wave of admonishment that is just a complete opposite of how people perceive the game just days before. So among the things he tweeted includes, ouch, right in the review score. Well, I guess it's warranted. Sorry, everyone, for how this is all transpired. I hope we will make it up and regain the trust by providing a continued great gaming experience. I just want to make great games. In a follow-up tweet, he reflected on how quickly the tides turned surrounding this game because of this debacle, stating, waking up to the sunshine of yesterday replaced with a dreary drizzle and shivering winds makes me reflect on how I spent my time those rare few moments when all was perfect. Yet, rain is essential to growth and is what changes spring into summer. I'll just have to wait for sunshine to return. And it seems as though the CEO here is just as lost about all of this as folks are when asked, PlayStation Network isn't supported in my country. What do? He straight up just said, I don't know. And this was not like a, I don't care about your situation, I don't know. It was more of a, I'm not in full control of this situation. I wish I was, kind of an I don't know. But in a more recent tweet, he is providing some hope that some resolution can be reached. He tweeted out recently, is this the moment to tweet, what, you guys don't have phones? Referencing the infamous BlizzCon event. And then he continued, on a serious note, we're talking solutions with PlayStation, especially for non-PSN countries. Your voice has been heard, and I am doing everything I can to speak for the community, but I don't have the final say. Again, he is not in full control. He's also taking some culpability in the way this developed because while he wasn't responsible for the PSN mandate, he was the one who decided to disable account linking at launch, which is how players enjoyed months of not having to link their Steam game to PSN. And he also took the blame for not communicating properly. I did not ensure players were aware of the requirement, and we didn't talk about it enough. And because of how much of a rug pull and surprise this all was, that was a big part of why the backlash got so big. But I'll say again, it was ultimately Sony who decided to make this mandate a thing in the first place. So I don't think any sort of admonishments should be directed at the CEO here. He's clearly doing the best he can with the cards that he's been dealt with the situation that he's in, with the position that he's in. He can only do so much. And I think overall he's trying to be very humble and understanding about all of this, saying that it's totally fair that the game is seeing, a wave of negative reviews and that people are speaking out about this. He's being very empathetic, unlike Sony, who not only issued this mandate out of the blue, but also decided to delist the game from the countries that PSN doesn't support and essentially doubly screw over the people of those countries who want to play this game. As for the community, they seem to be pretty adamant on continuing to be in a united front on this. You got tweets like this highlighting how we got hundreds of thousands of negative reviews in the span of a couple of days, just highlighting how organized people are towards a single cause, which is ironic given the game's theme of we're all part of a democracy, and democracy is at play right now, in a weird sort of meta way. And tweets like these have garnered, tens of thousands of likes and millions of views. And then plenty of people highlighting that it's not enough to review bomb the game. People are encouraging that people quit playing the game, affect the player numbers, and that will really send the corporate heads at Sony a message. So far, it's not looking like the player base has been significantly affected. Being vocal is still important, but if all this ultimately doesn't have a negative financial impact on the game and its trending status, then, Sony will be less incentivized. They'll feel less pressured to capitulate to community backlash, but only time will tell how all of this plays out, especially now as the developers try to reason with Sony and PlayStation about all of this. I'll keep you guys updated on future developments, but this is where we're at right now. It just feels like a very ungrateful thing to do towards a community that made Helldivers 2 such a massive success around the world. And even, again, if this doesn't impact the majority of players, it's still a lot of players will be impacted by this. And, every player should be considered and taken into account, especially when they've already spent money on the game. But yeah, this is sort of my take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this Helldivers 2 situation, whether you agree or disagree with the backlash that's happening here surrounding this mandate. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.